project when the whole thing first started going, and Peter Whitehead?
There was a great Irish set designer called Sean Kenny, after whom my first child was named, that and Poitin. And he knew that I basically wanted to audition film, a combination of how the Stones would look on film off stage, and also kind of get them in the mood for a lot of boring meetings that us young farts would have to have with old farts if we wanted to make, a real film, right? It was an instance where we followed for a change instead of led, in that everybody, Dave Clark 5, Jerry the Pacemakers, everybody had made films, and we suddenly we fell into the mind swill of, oh, well, we should too. While we thought there was a chance of getting A Clockwork Orange, it felt entertaining, but Anthony Burgess thought he was dying of cancer. A doctor, of course, had told him that. And he started taking leapers and drinking, and thought that he would write to provide for his family, because he figured he had to get a year and a half, and he sold the rights to the book for about $5 grand. And 2 years later, he found out he was still living. Right? He'd written these magnificent books, The Clockwork Orange and Son Mr. Enderby, and all those 4 books. Poor soul, once he knew he was going to live, the next thing he did was Jesus of Nazareth. He just straightened up, and all this wonderful stuff he'd written. But anyway, Peter Whitehead was recommended. He'd done a film I'm sure you're familiar with called Holy Communion, the Albert Hall stuff with Allen Ginsberg. And I met him on a Wednesday. He could start on Friday. The price was right. And as when things are going on, he was absolutely perfect for it, for what he. One of the things he brought to it that people don't often think about is the thing that England and Ireland has run on, this sort of class structure. He came in at a perfect level, because the whole thing with the Stones was, the whole theme of the film was, look, the camera's running, do something. And he was just perfect for that. Glyn Johns, the engineer, producer, was also there doing the sound. And that's how it started. It really was to get to the mood for a film that never actually happened. So this is the only document of that particular end of the 60s.
Talk about those concerts. Were the ones we see here in the film typical of you at that time, or any memories you have, particularly about these filmed concerts we see?
No, it's pretty typical. 25 minutes, 3 acts, small broken down set of drums, 2 shows a night. You know that all of these shows at that time, there were some cinemas that used to just close up for the night. No, that was like, you're seeing, if you've got 3 versions of the 60s, and if the first one ended in 62, the next one in 67, this is that, Don Henley, the end of the Innocents, and it's an interesting collision of events, and that we have just recorded, and it is apparent because it came out in America first, how big Satisfaction was going to be. And then now we're like in the backyard of England. Sorry, Ireland. But, it's a very friendly backyard. Doing home movies, basically. Right? And they were great. And before you ask me, the reason for why it's called Charlie is My Darling is because after seeing, it's ironic that although they're all good, and I would love to sell some sort of Chet Baker type blow-ups of Keith in that paisley waistcoat, probably will be by the next showing outside. But Charlie too, I had these visions that Melville would be calling me going, Mr. Oldham, Charles Bronson cannot do the next film. Could Charlie come to Paris Melville film. Right? Because that's what it, you know, I don't do maths, you know, I'm a dreamer, so I look at that footage and that's what I think is obvious. You must see this. And Paul and Charlie, and that's why the film's called Charlie Is My Darling.
One of the things that really struck me when I saw the film is just, I guess, in my own fictitious Stones chronology, it really felt by this point Brian was somewhat fading out and everything had really become Mick and Keith. Is that what was happening, or?
Well, he had his moments, he still had his, let's not count him out yet, okay? He had his severe moments of enjoyment, as Keith used to say, you know, Andrew really gets on with him when they're both totally loaded. You know, you have this thing where if an artist is not getting off in the moment, and while they're in that moment, they're planning ahead for the applause and the acclaim at the end of that 3.5 minutes or 25-minute show. This is not a good recipe for continuous energy. Or you could just say that Brian was spent, and that he was sort of like a cat who had 9 lives already, and somebody made a glorious mistake for the benefit of all of us in the music and sent him back for a 10th. And then kind of went, oh, wait, you remember the 27 Club? Come back, brother.
Here, let's get some questions.